Hello everyone, Kate here, back from the video. Today for you guys, I'm going to be reading the Canadian Constitution Act from 1867 to 1982. I'll have a link to this PDF file down in the description below, along with our PayPal where we accept donations for consultation. So yeah, if you guys want to email us, our email is down in the description below. And for anything, I'll just get right into it. I'm not sure if we'll be able to read the entire thing, but I'm going to see if I can go as far as I can. Alright, let's get right into it. An act for the Union of Canada, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick, and the government thereof, and for purposes connected herewith. Whereas the provinces of Canada, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick have expressed their desire to be federally united into one Dominion under the crown of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, with a constitution similar in principle to that of the United Kingdom. And whereas such a union would conduce to the welfare of the provinces and promote the interests of the British Empire, and whereas on the establishment of the Union by authority of Parliament is expedient, and not only that the constitution of legislative authority in the Dominion be provided for, but also that nature of the exclusive government therein be declared, and whereas it is expedient that the provision may be made for eventual admission into the Union of other parts of British North America, it shall be lawful for the Queen and with the advice of Her Majesty's most honourable Privy Council, to declare by proclamation that, after a day therein appointed, not being more than 6 months after the passing of this Act, the provinces of Canada, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick shall form and be one Dominion under the name of Canada, and one after that day those three provinces shall form and be one Dominion under that name accordingly. 4. Unless it is otherwise expressed or implied, the name Canada shall be taken in to mean Canada as constituted under this Act. Canada shall be divided into 4 provinces, named Ontario, Quebec, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick. 6. The parts of the province of Canada, as existing at the passing of this Act, which formerly constituted respectively the provinces of Upper Canada and Lower Canada, shall be deemed and served, and shall form 2 separate provinces. The part which formerly constituted the province of Upper Canada shall constitute the province of Ontario, and the part which formerly constituted the province of Lower Canada shall constitute the province of Quebec. 7. The provinces of Nova Scotia and New Brunswick shall have the same limits as the passing of this Act. In the general census of the population of Canada, which is hereby required to be taken in the year 1871, and in every 10th year thereafter, the respective populations of the 4 provinces shall be distinguished. 9. The executive government and authority of and over Canada is hereby declared to continue and be vested in the Queen. 10. The provisions of this Act referring to the Governor and General extend and apply to the Governor General for the time being of Canada, or other chief executive officer or administrator for the time being carrying on the government of Canada on behalf of in the name of the Queen by whatever title he is designated. 11. There shall be a council to aid and advise the government in Canada, to be styled in the Queen's Privy Council for Canada. The persons who are to be members of the council shall be from time to time chosen and summoned by the Governor General and sworn in as privy councillors, and members thereof may be from time to time removed by the Governor General. 12. All powers, authorities, and functions which under any Act of Parliament of Great Britain or of the Parliament of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, or of the legislature of Upper Canada, Lower Canada, Nova Scotia, or New Brunswick, are at the Union vested or exercisable by the respective governors or lieutenant governors of those provinces, with the advice or conjunction with those councils, or with any number of members thereof, or by those governors or lieutenant governors individually, shall as far as the same continue in existence and capable of being exercised after the Union in relation to the Government of Canada, be vested in and exercisable by the Governor General, with the advice of consent or in conjunction with the Queen's Privy Council for Canada, or any members thereof, or by the Governor General individually, as the case requires, subject nevertheless, except with respect to such exist under Acts of Parliament of Great Britain, or of the Parliament of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, to be abolished or altered by the Parliament of Canada. 13. The provisions of this Act referring to the Governor-General in Council shall be construed as referring to the Governor-General, acting by and with the advice of the Queen's Privy Council for Canada. 14. It shall be lawful for the Queen, if Her Majesty thinks fit, to authorize the Governor-General from time to time to appoint any person or persons jointly or severally to be his deputy or deputies within any part or parts of Canada, and in that capacity to exercise during the pleasure of the Governor-General such of the powers, authorities, and functions of the Governor-General as the Governor-General deems it necessary to expedite it or assign to him or them, subject to any limitations or directions expressed or given by the Queen. But the appointment of such deputy or deputies shall not affect the exercise by the Governor-General himself of any power, authority, or function. 15. The Command-in-Chief of the land of naval militia and of all naval and military forces of and in Canada is hereby declared to continue and be vested in the Queen. 60. Until the Queen otherwise directs, the seat of the government of Canada shall be in Ottawa. 17. There shall be one Parliament for Canada, consisting of the Queen, an upper house styled the Senate, and the House of Commons. 18. The privileges, immunities, and powers to be held, enjoyed, and exercised by the Senate, and by the House of Commons, and by the members of theirs respectively, shall be such as are from time to time defined by the Parliament of Canada, but so that any act of the Parliament of Canada defining such privileges, immunities, and powers shall not confer any privileges, immunities, or powers exceeding those at the passing of such act held, enjoyed, and exercised by the Commons, House of Parliament of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland by the members thereof. 19. The Parliament of Canada shall be called together not later than 6 months after the Union. 21. The Senate shall, subject to the provisions of the Act, consist of 105 members, who shall be styled senators. In relation to the Constitution of the Senate, Canada shall be deemed to consist of 4 divisions: 1. Quebec, Ontario; 2. Quebec; 3. The Maritime Provinces, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Prince Edward Island; 4. The Western Provinces of Manitoba, British Columbia, Saskatchewan, and Alberta, which 4 divisions shall, subject to the provisions of this Act, be equally represented in the Senate as follows: Ontario by 24 senators, Quebec by 24 senators, the Maritime Provinces and Prince Edward Island by 24 senators, and 10 thereof representing Nova Scotia, 10 thereof representing New Brunswick, and 4 thereof representing Prince Edward Island. The Western Provinces by 24 senators, 6 thereof representing Manitoba, 6 thereof representing British Columbia, 6 thereof representing Saskatchewan, and 6 thereof representing Alberta. Newfoundland shall be entitled and represented in the state by 6 members. The Yukon Territory, the Northwest Territories, and Nunavut shall be entitled to be represented by each in the Senate by 1 member each. In the case of Quebec, each one of the 24 senators representing that province shall be appointed for one of the 24 electoral divisions of Lower Canada, be specified in Schedule A, Chapter 1 of the Consolidated Statutes of Canada. 23. The qualifications of the senator shall be as follows: 1. He shall be the full age of 30 years. 2. He shall be either a natural-born subject of the Queen, or a subject of the Queen naturalized by an act of the Parliament of Great Britain, or the Parliament of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, or of the legislature of one of the provinces of Upper Canada, Lower Canada, Canada, Nova Scotia, or New Brunswick, for the Union, or of the Parliament of Canada after the Union. 3. He shall be legally and equitably seized as of freehold of his own use and benefit of lands and tenements held in free and common associage, or seized or possessed for his own use and benefit of lands of tenants held in franc aliu or in rotaire within the province of which he is appointed, of the value of $4,000, over and above all rents, dues, debts, charges, mortgages, and encumbrances due or payable out of or charged on or affecting the same. 4. His real and personal property debt shall be together with $4,000 over and above his debts and liabilities. 5. He shall be resident in the province for which he is appointed. 6. In the case of Quebec, he shall have his real property qualification in the electoral division for which he is appointed, or shall be resident in that division. 24. The governor shall, from time to time, in the Queen's name, by instrument under the Great Seal of Canada, summon qualified persons to the Senate, and subject to the provisions of this Act, every person so summoned shall come and be member of the Senate and the Senator. 26. If at any time, on the recommendation of the Governor General, the Queen thinks fit to direct that 4 or 8 members to be added to that Senate, the Governor General may by summons to 4 or 8 qualified persons, as the case may be, representing equally to the 4 divisions of Canada, add to the Senate accordingly. 27. In case of such additions being at any time made, the Governor General shall not summon any person to the Senate, except on a further like direction by the Queen on the like recommendation, to represent one of the 4 divisions until such division is represented by 24 senators and no more. 28. The number of senators shall not at any time exceed 113. 29. Subject to subsection 2, a senator shall, subject to the provisions of this Act, hold his place in the Senate for life. 2. A senator who has summoned to the Senate after the coming into force of this subjection shall, subject to this Act, hold his place in the Senate until he attains the age of 75 years. 30. A senator may be writing under his hand addressed to the Governor General, and thereupon the same shall be vacant. 31. The place of a senator shall become vacant in any of the following cases. 1. If for two consecutive sessions of the Parliament he fails to give his attention in the Senate. 2. If he takes an oath or makes a declaration of acknowledgement of allegiance, obedience, or adherence to a foreign power, or does not act toward he becomes a subject or citizen, or entitled to the rights or privileges of a subject or citizen or of a foreign power. 3. If he is a judge, bankrupt, or is insolvent, or applies for the benefit of any law relating to insolvent debtors, or becomes a public defaulter. 4. If he is attainted of treason for convicted of felony or for any infamous crime. 5. If he ceases to be qualified in respect of property or of residence, provided that a senator shall not be deemed to have seats or be qualified in respect of residence by reason only of his residing at the seat of government of Canada while holding an office under that government requiring his presence there. Number 32. When a vacancy happens in the state by resignation, death, or otherwise, the Governor General shall by summons to fit and qualified person to fill in the vacancy. 33. If any question arises respecting the qualification of a senator or a vacancy in the Senate, the same shall be heard and determined by the Senate. 34. The Governor General may from time to time, by instrument under the Great Seal of Canada, appoint a senator to be Speaker of the Senate, and may remove him and appoint another in his stead. 35. Until the Parliament of Canada or otherwise provides, the presence of at least 15 senators, including the Speaker, shall be necessary to constitute a meeting of the Senate for the exercise of its powers. 36. Questions arising in the Senate shall be decided by a majority of voices, and the Speaker shall in all cases have a vote, and when the voices are all equal in the decision shall be deemed in the negative. 37. The House of Commons shall, subject to the provision of this Act, consist of 308 members, of whom 106 shall be elected for Ontario, 75 for Quebec, 11 for Nova Scotia, 10 for New Brunswick, 14 for Manitoba, 36 for British Columbia, 4 for Prince Edward Island, 28 for Alberta, 14 for Saskatchewan, 7 for Newfoundland, 1 for the Yukon Territory, one for the Northwest Territories, and one for Nunavut. 38. The Governor General shall from time to time, in the Queen's name by instrument under the Great Civ Canada, summon and call together the House of Commons. 39. A senator shall not be capable of being elected or of sitting or voting as a member of the House of Commons. 40. Until the Parliament of Canada otherwise provides, Ontario, Quebec, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick shall, for the purposes of the election of members to serve in the House of Commons, be divided into electoral districts as follows. 1. Ontario. Ontario shall be divided into the counties or ridings of countries, cities, parts of cities, and towns enumerated in the first schedule to this act, each whereof shall be an electoral district. Each such district is as numbered in that schedule, being entitled to return one member. Quebec. 2. Quebec. Quebec shall be divided into 65 electoral districts, composed of the 65 electoral divisions into which Lower Canada is at the passing of this act, divided under Chapter 2 of the Consolidated Statutes of Canada, Chapter 75 of the Consolidated Statutes for Lower Canada, and the Act of the Province of Canada of the 23rd year of the Queen, Chapter 1, or any other act amending the same in force at the Union, so that each electoral division shall be the purposes of this act an electoral district entitled to return one member. 3. Nova Scotia. Each of the 18 counties of Nova Scotia shall be an electoral district. The county of Halifax shall be entitled to return two members, and each of the other countries one member. Number 4. New Brunswick. Each of the 14 counties into which New Brunswick is divided, including the city and county of St. John, shall be an electoral district. The city of St. John shall also be a separate electoral district. Each of those 15 electoral districts shall be entitled to return one member. 41. Until the Parliament of Canada otherwise provides, all laws in force in the several provinces of the Union relative to the following matters, or any of them, namely, the qualifications and disqualifications of persons to be elected or to sit or vote as members of the House of Assembly or Legislative Assembly in the several provinces, the voters and elections of such members, the oaths to be taken by voters, the returning officers, their powers and duties, the proceedings at elections, the periods during which elections may be continued, the trial of controverted elections, and proceedings incident thereof, the vacanting of seats and members, and execution of new writs in case of seats vacated otherwise than dissolution shall be respectively applied to elections and of members to serve in the House of Commons for the same several provinces, provided that until the Parliament of Canada otherwise provides, at any election for a member of the House of Commons for the District of Alagomia, in addition to persons qualified by the law of Providence of Canada to vote, every male British subject aged 21 years or upwards, being householder, shall have a vote. Number 44. The House of Commons, on its first assembling after general election, shall be proceeded with all practicable speed to elect one of its members to be Speaker. Number 45. In case of a vacancy happening in the office of Speaker by death, resignation, or otherwise, the House of Commons shall, with all practicable speed, proceed to elect another one of its members to be Speaker. Number 46. The Speaker shall preside at all meetings in the House of Commons. Number 47. Until the Parliament of Canada otherwise provides, in the case of absence for any reason of the Speaker of the Chair of the House of Commons for a period of 48 consecutive hours, the House may elect another one of its members to act as Speaker, and the member so elected shall, during the continuance of such absence of the Speaker have and execute all the powers, privileges, and duties of the Speaker. 48. The presence of at least 20 members of the House of Commons shall be necessary to constitute a meeting of the House for the exercise of its powers, and for that purpose the Speaker shall be reckoned as a member. Number 49. That's the last one I'm going to do. Questions arising in the House of Commons shall be decided by a majority of voices other than that speaker, and when voices are equal but not otherwise, the speaker shall have a vote. Alright guys, I'm gonna end it off here. I know this one's a bit longer than usual, but I'm gonna see if I can finish this whole thing. I'll see you guys in the next part. Have a nice day. Like, subscribe. Bye.